Okay, hi guys, hi everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Señoritas. I'm Caro.
I'm Desi.
And I'm Stacy.
And we are your hosts. We are super excited for this week's episode. As you can all tell, we have been talking about a little bit about the immigrant experience, and we kind of want to highlight it more this time and talk about our individual immigrant stories so we can, find similarities and find fun times in our journey.
Tell our villain origin stories.
Seriously. And we just wanted to share a little bit more of that experience with you guys, and we're just super excited to share that.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest reasons why we wanted to bring this subject, it's actually really important to us, and it means a lot.
It is who we are.
It is who we are, and we feel like, not to get too political, but we feel like because of everything that has happened in the last few years here in the United States, people tend to look at immigrants in a certain way. Yeah. And we kind of want to change that up and show you this is us. We are it. We have normal lives and we come here for various different reasons. Everyone has a different reason, a different story of how they got here. For some people, it was easy. For some people, it was not really hard. Mm-hmm. So we just kind of want to educate you and show you what an immigrant is, because it comes in all shapes and forms and different.
And every time I feel like I talk to anyone about immigration or my story about coming here, they're like, "What? Mm-hmm. I didn't know immigrants had to go through all of this. That's crazy." And I'm like, people just haven't come in contact with an immigrant to learn what it's like. Yeah. And it's funny that we talk about this because one time my family and I went to dinner, and the dad that invited us over, he's like, I used to be racist. I did not like Latinos because I thought they were all a certain way. Oh my gosh. And he's like, and then I met you guys, talking about my family, and he's like, and I realized that you guys are way different. And I'm like, you just haven't talked to anyone. You just didn't know. So it's so important for us to share our stories so people know what it's like, what we go through, and just the life of an immigrant, because it's not a part of me. It is me. It makes up such a huge part of my life.
And I think I do remember, because my Instagram handle is the Brown Señorita. Mm-hmm. And
where it all began.
Yes, she's the OG Brown Señorita.
And I had an uncle who is American. He's like, "Why brown? Why do you have to say you're brown?" And I'm like, I thought about that. I'm like, well, it's just...
Look at me.
First of all, it's what I look like, but it's not I want to rub it in people's faces. I'm brown, so treat me differently. It's more no, this is who I am. This is how, I see myself in the world. And it's just I know I'm different in a good way. So it's just accepting that part of yourself, because I feel it's really sad when we meet other immigrants and they hate themselves or hate their own culture, or
they want to pretend they're Americans.
Yeah, and
they want to forget their original language.
Yeah, they just don't want to. And I'm sure that has to do with family issues or whatever, right? There's a deeper issue there. Mm-hmm. But I'm no, I'm proud. I remember telling my mom, Mom, I'm proud of being Mexican. Mm-hmm. I was probably around 12 or 13. And that just, even though I feel I have assimilated myself very well with the American culture, I'm no matter how long I've lived here, which by the way, I was making numbers, it'll be 20 years next year. Wow. That I've been in the US, and I'm 20 freaking years.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
No matter how long I live here, I will always be from Mexico. I will always be an immigrant. Yeah. That will never go away. Mm-hmm. So might as well embrace it and show it off to the world.
And be proud of it.
Yeah.
Because it really is something to be proud of. You think about people that have to pick up and leave from one country to another.
Insane.
The amount of courage and strength that takes, that's not for the weak.
That could almost be a whole other episode talking about the courageousness and bravery that our parents and maybe some people's grandparents showed coming to America. It's insane to
think about. We could totally do an episode on that. I would love that.
We could, because I think for us, we have kind of similar stories, even though they're very different, because our parents brought us here. Mm-hmm. It's a very different story when you're the parent bringing your family here. Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
I had a hard time bringing myself here. Imagine bringing myself with little people.
Yeah.
No.
I have no idea. And
4.
Yeah.
And okay, and we think of, I think also, we can all agree that when we think of immigrants, we mostly think Latin America, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mexican, since we're just right next to the border. But there's people from across the seas that not only have to leave their country, but they have to go through different countries and get a, boat ride or a plane ride here.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, there's just so many crazy stories, I guess you could say, and it just makes yours even look like, well, mine wasn't that bad, I guess, But because all of ours are so different, but we still have we can all find similarities in like, oh yeah, we struggled with this. We struggle with freaking, what's it called? Slang. Yeah. Like American slang. I still have a hard time picking up some words. I'm like, what do you mean? Are you being sarcastic? Like, I could not pick...
the humor?
I still have such a hard time picking up sarcasm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you trying to be mean or what? So, I think that'd be cool to, kind of dig into that more because it's just such a... Just so
Honestly,
many experiences.
I think we could talk about that for like 17 days straight.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Before we start on our own individual immigrant stories, I'm going to ask you a few questions. First, how many... Okay, so I have like multiple screenshots.
This is Teacher Stacy.
This is Teacher me coming into the mode. Okay, how many... If you were to put a number on it, how many immigrants do you think live in the United States?
Live?
Mm-hmm. How many immigrants are there?
I mean, I don't even know how many people live in the United States.
Okay. All right. Fair
Let's
point.
start there. Actually, right. I would never be able to answer that question.
What would I base it off? But I mean, I could say like we're hitting maybe 50% of the U.S. population.
Okay.
I think so.
So.
I mean, technically, Americans are immigrants. That's a whole other topic.
Aren't we all? But like, okay, people that were not born here and actually migrated from another country to the United States.
Right. Okay. So there's about 300 million people living in the United States. How many of those are immigrants? And yes, think of immigrants.
Yeah, okay.
Foreign born.
Okay.
So that doesn't include the kids of immigrants.
Okay.
Just immigrants.
Maybe like, I don't think it's that high.
10 million?
I think it's more like between 30 and 50 million.
Yeah, maybe not 50%, but like, 10.
It's about 48 million people.
Yeah.
48 million
Yeah,
people.
that's a lot of people.
Out of 300.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people, but we're talking about people that migrate, like, because there's a lot of immigrants,
right? So
and they're not first generation, like stuff like that, right?
Right.
Or even like, I mean, we don't have records of them being in the country either.
Right.
And granted, that yes, there are also a lot of undocumented people that we do not have records for that are not counted in the statistics.
Right.
Okay. Where are most immigrants from?
I definitely want to say at least Mexico.
I think Asia, Mexico.
Mexico's up there for sure. India is the next. And there have been years where India has had more immigrants come than Mexico.
Look at that. Really?
I didn't know. India is literally on the other side of the world. That's crazy.
That's insane.
It could also be, I feel like, maybe for school and work, right? Like, I mean, I guess we all come, again, here for different reasons.
I think for sure there are a lot that come for school and work, but I think, in general, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
China is also up there, and then Central America and Asia, like Vietnam, Korea, and Brazil. It makes in the top 10.
Really? Let me see.
Oh.
I want proof.
Brazil's right there.
Interesting.
Wow.
Have you guys seen the show Mo on Netflix?
No.
You guys have to. Everyone
Mo?
has to.
No.
Mo. M-O. So it's only 6 episodes. They're only about an hour each. He just announced his 2nd season, but he's Palestinian American. I believe that's what he is. If not, he's just Palestinian. But in the show, it's like the experience of an illegal Palestinian living in Texas.
Wow.
And he has a Mexican girlfriend. So it's obviously he highlights a lot of struggles from his culture, but also again that dynamic of like I live in America, but my family, does this or still thinks this way. So it's like the struggle of trying to bring both cultures together, and his struggles. It's an amazing show.
I love that.
I want to watch that. I'm
So
always looking for new
good.
shows, and you always have the best
I'm just a stay-at-home mom. So.
I love that.
Literally, I always get like, what do I watch? And you always
watch Mo. It's so good.
I'm gonna watch it.
It just got announced for the second season, so I'm super pumped.
Fun.
And he's a comedian. Like in real life.
Oh, cool.
So it's funny.
I love, my favorite comedy is like immigrant comedy. Like,
it's amazing.
Hassan Minaj. He has a set on immigrant, and it like it's so funny because I think it's the most relatable to me. Like how we have like the immigrant parents that like don't quite get the culture sometimes, like young culture, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Of the immigrants that are here in the United States, what states do you think they mostly live in?
California, New York City, Texas.
California
Florida.
for sure is number 1. Texas is also a big one, number 2, and the third one is Florida.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
How did I not
Wait,
think
sorry,
of that?
you said Florida, Texas, California?
California, Texas, Florida.
And New York is not up
New
there?
York also had a bunch, but it's not top 3.
Wow. I mean, that makes total sense.
Yeah. Huge.
Okay, so now I have another question. There's about like 47-ish million immigrants right now. Mm-hmm. If the trends continue, how many immigrants do you think will be here in like the next 30 years?
Oh my gosh. 30 years?
20, 30 years.
Well, I think how the world is going, like the direction it's going.
I mean, unless our own home countries get their crap together,
It will just continue to happen.
it might just like stabilize, right?
However, I will say, I remember being little and the United States being like, oh my gosh, like
It's the place.
that's the place that you want to be at. I think that's kind of changing now.
100%.
I think people are not loving the idea of coming here as much because of how...
Well, it's just
because
incredibly difficult to get in.
It's difficult. You're not welcomed. Like, there's many other places that they will receive you with open arms. And I think as we learn about immigration and as we hear more things like politically and, you know, how just everything got so racist recently and like it's so bad, I think a lot of people are considering staying where they're at. Because Brazil is quite amazing. Like, I could go back and be happy there too. You know what I mean? Unless you're like a refugee, that's that's different than migrating for other reasons.
Yeah, I guess it probably depends on like the reasons, but there's been a lot with 2020, like a lot of companies that will let you work from home. So why do I need to move to the United States if I can work for this American company from my
Make
house
dollars,
in Colombia? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So...
And a lot of Americans are actually also migrating to other countries.
Yeah, right now, actually, like, Mexico City is like half and half right now. Or
that's insane. What?
Yeah, and it's like actually like a problem, but I'm like, problem, but also it's also a good thing for our economy.
Yeah.
Right? But people are getting upset that rents are going higher because Americans are going...
Just like Puerto Rico.
Buying land. Same thing that's happening in Puerto Rico and Hawaii, right? But again, it's like helping our economy too, but I mean, it obviously depends what side of the opinions you are there.
I mean, because people migrate for obvious reasons. We want a better life.
Yeah.
And if there's Americans migrating to Central America, going to Puerto Rico, going to Mexico, you know, Costa Rica or whatever, it's because it makes sense to them because it's better there for whatever reason, right? Better quality of life because you're eating better food. It's cheaper because you're making dollars. Like, we all move away because we're looking for something better.
Yeah.
Right? And not necessarily, I think I kind of hate that connotation that immigrants have of like, we're here to take everything away from you. And it's like...
truly the furthest from the truth.
If we could take everything away.
We would.
Also, there's enough for everybody to have some.
Yeah. It's more like we're here to add and to enjoy of the same. But we're also here to build. Like, no one gets to this country in an easy way and only takes. Like, it's impossible to only take.
Yeah.
You have to give so much to just get a little bit back.
Yeah. A lot of sacrifice. And I think maybe we also came during a time that a lot of immigrants were coming to the country. Yeah. Right? I don't know how it's been in the past historically, but I feel maybe in the early 2000s, a lot of people were moving here. Yeah. And Americans, and again, I don't know numbers, I don't know history, but they're like, oh, who are these people? You know, why are they all coming here all of a sudden? Yeah. I feel like a lot of stuff happened or changed after 9/11, because 9/11 affected our story of how we got here. So
that's true. It's really weird because I've never in my life have imagined that a lot of my childhood friends would live here. I have people that live here in Utah that grew up with me, and there's a lot of them. It's not just one or two.
Yeah.
It's like
interesting.
Like 40 people like that grew up in the same little city I'm from. It's really crazy.
Well, like after a year that we moved here, my aunt and uncle came, and then after that, my other aunt and uncle came. So it's just like I feel like that during that time, a lot of people started coming here.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know what the rules were back then. It feels like it was easier to get here.
Before pre 9/11, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, pre 9/11. So
is that when you guys came when you were little? Was it before that?
I came in November after 9/11. 2 months.
Really? I came the year after 9/11.
No way.
Yeah, I'm like sometimes like I remember being young and like just because of the situation, I'm like, why didn't my parents move here before 9/11, where things were easier to be here? But
right.
Okay, the question was like, how many people are gonna live here if trends continue? Granted, if trends continue, there will be about 80 million people, immigrants,
so
double, which is crazy because that is close to about a third of the United States population. And granted, like I said, these are people that are documented, right? So they've keep like registered those statistics, and that doesn't include the children that they have.
Yeah.
So,
but also technically, right? What we hear, people are having less children too. So,
yeah.
I mean, that doesn't affect how many immigrants will come.
No.
Right.
Interesting.
All I have to say is
karma. Just kidding.
No.
Why?
No,
because like we're coming back. Now you're like,
we're
taking it back.
I can't even claim it as mine. I'm so down south.
I mean,
like I have nothing to do with America.
I think I've learned more of like the actual history of the country these past couple of years with all these activists or protests or whatever. But I'm like, Native Americans were the OGs of the country. Like
this is their country. This is their land.
Could you imagine like
so white people that are saying, who are these people? Why are people coming? Girl, where did you come from? This is not your country.
Native Americans were asking themselves that question.
This is Native American country.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think the way things are going, this is everybody's country.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it was not built by white people from the beginning. No. It's like the foundation of this country was never... I want to be careful with the things I say.
But I mean, we've known at least from basic history, we're Native Americans, right?
This is the land of everybody. Should we shed some light on our personal experiences?
Yeah, let's talk about ourselves for a little bit.
Do you want to go first?
Do I?
Yeah, I mean,
I can talk about like the reason why I came.
Yeah.
Right. And to just kind of like backstory, I grew up in Brazil my whole life. I moved here when I was 18. And it was mainly just to go to school. I never wanted to move countries. I was very happy in Brazil. I had a really... ouch. I had a really good life. And my parents worked really hard to provide like an amazing life for our family. But I was really intrigued by studying abroad. Like that was a fun idea. You know? So I went to BYU and... then my family moved here and now it's like this is our home and it feels weird because I always had the hope of going back. Like my intention was never to come and live here with my family. It was to come, study, bring back to Brazil what I learned and build a life in Brazil. So I'm still adjusting. Like I almost feel like the decision was made for me. It was never my decision to move countries and be like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm gonna live there. It was more like my family slowly moved and then this is our home now. So it's weird. It's a weird story. That's the reason why I came. And I don't know.
Do you think you'll ever live in Brazil again?
I want to. Okay. I would love to raise my children in Brazil. There's a lot of things that are really hard for me here. And those that know me and are around me know what those things are, and it's just too different. And there's things that I really admire and relate to in Brazil that I really want my kids to be around and partake of that.
Yeah.
And there's things there that are hard for me. And I didn't, like, you came when you were so young. So you did, like, the things you do when you're young. Yeah. Like, you grew up here. So for me, it still feels so foreign, even though it is my second home and I feel at home. I still feel like it's foreign to me.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting because, I guess just to jump in with mine real quick, I think for the longest time I was always like, oh, my life in Mexico, or like, oh, when I was little in Mexico, like it was just always going back to Mexico. But now I'm like, when I was younger in Springville, like in Spanish Fork, like those are my childhood memories now, which is so weird to me, and I didn't realize that until like probably the past year and a half. That I'm like, this is my life. This has been my childhood. And I honestly didn't grasp it until the past year and a half. Like, we moved to Springville again. I'm like, oh, I came to high school here. And I'm like, I came to high school here. Like, I lived with all these people that I still talk to now, right? And honestly, I mean, like, long story short, our main reason why we moved here, I want to say maybe about 4 or 5 years before we moved here, my dad was actually kidnapped. I don't know if you guys knew that.
My eyes just went so big. What?
Yeah.
In Mexico?
In Mexico City.
that's not funny.
Oh my.
I don't talk about it much because it happened when I was little.
She's laughing.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, we were doing well in Mexico. There was no need for us to move here. My dad was working for an American company, so he was making American dollars in Mexico. So we were doing pretty okay. Yeah. We had, I think we've talked about this before, like my mom had like 2 maids at a point, so we were financially stable. And so I don't really know the reason of why my dad got kidnapped except just money. Like someone just robbed him type of thing. But they took him. So he was technically gone for a day. He was just gone for a day.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid to take him because he...
Well, like ransom.
Yeah.
It would be easier to take her and then ask him to give the money.
Okay, Desi. That's terrifying.
Just give me some
that was dumb. You should have just kidnapped Gato.
Like, why would you take the big source of...
It's true.
And Gato's like, what, 4?
I was thinking out loud. I was like, that's actually so dumb.
Guys, I'm so sorry. I'm coughing.
Dumb Robert.
Okay, anyway.
So yeah, I was in the car, actually. So it was my dad,
oh my gosh,
my mom, and I was in the back seat with my grandma. And my dad, it was a Saturday, I believe. Somehow my dad had to go back to the office and pick up some stuff. So he parked outside the office.
Oh, no.
Office building. He went inside, got the stuff, came back in, and right as he was getting in, someone pulled him out and telling everyone, get out, get out. Yeah. Like I said, I was about probably 6 or 7. And my mom got out, my grandma got out, I got out. I don't know if someone pulled me out.
That's so scary.
How old were you?
6 or 7.
Oh my goodness.
They took my mom's jewelry.
Yeah,
they took our car, I believe, and my dad.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy. I haven't asked my dad really what happened. It's just something that we don't even talk about because it's just like, haha, like that was weird. But he was back the next day.
Where did they take him?
I don't know. This is the thing. I never asked my dad.
Oh my gosh, God, what? I would literally be pressing my dad all day long.
I would have read a book at this point.
I would have been like, tell me what you were thinking every single second that passed. Every single second.
Yeah, and it sounds so silly because I think about it all the time.
You have
like,
homework.
Why have I not asked more questions about this? So I'll get on that.
Yes, get on that because now I'm dying to know.
That's a big reason. Yeah. Like actually thinking about like my parents' motive to come here. Obviously, my mom came just to be close to us, but my dad was actually scared every day that something like this could happen to us because South America, Central America, some cities are just not safe. There's a lot of violence. Yeah. And so in my father's mind, it's like, I'd rather lose a lot of what we love here to never have to worry about my kids safety. Being killed or safety. Like in Brazil, like we lived in when there was a year that we lived in a really, really nice neighborhood in the north of Brazil, and we only lived there for a year, and our teacher got killed outside the school, and our building that we lived, our apartment building was right here. You cross the street, this is the school. She was getting out of the parking lot from the school and got shot because the guy was trying to rob her car. So for my dad, is like, this just happened next door to where my kids live, and we walked to school every day. So for him, it's like, I'll lose my home so I don't ever have to worry about my kids going to school.
Yeah.
Right? It is dangerous. That's a big reason why people leave home. Their home country.
I would say it's the main reason. When I was out, that's honestly a big part of why I'm here too.
Yeah.
And not to like not that you said it like in a lightly way, but that is so real. Yeah. People get kidnapped. People get killed over a cell phone.
Yes.
People get killed over like 20, well, in my country, quetzales, like money, currency, whatever. Like, the delinquency and the crime. Granted, I think if you're involved in sketchy things, you're way more at risk.
Yeah.
But even if you are not involved in anything like that, like petty crime happens all the time. Like how many times did my phone get stolen? My mom got assaulted on the street. My dad's shoes have been stolen. Like I could tell you, I think we could have an episode on just like the crimes that have happened. To, like, I can't say this in English. Los ladrones se metieron a la casa.
The robbers got into the house.
Got in my...
Broke into the house.
Wait, no, that's a crazy story. I'll have to tell another time. Wow. But that happened a few times. Like,
oh my God.
Crime is real.
Yeah.
And, like, it's so funny. I think I take it for granted now. I drive around by myself, middle of the night. Like, I go get gas by myself. Yeah. I go to the grocery store by myself.
And you don't even have to keep looking back.
In Guatemala, you have to roll your windows up at every stoplight. Right. Yeah. You cannot be a woman and be outside at night by yourself. Like, unheard of.
Yeah.
Like, we go travel just to go home to visit. Phones are in our pockets. Jewelry put away. Like, you do not make yourself known.
Which is so sad because we work hard our whole lives. Our parents work so hard their whole lives. And we still can't buy the nicest car because you don't want to call attention.
Yep.
So it's like the freedom we get here, even though everyone is aware that horrible things happen in the United States. Like, we're not exempt from horrible things happening to you just because you live here.
Yeah, this is
but the
place.
Chances of it happening to you back home
are much higher.
It's like on a daily basis.
Yeah. Like, I know girls that have gotten killed. Like, my friends.
Wow.
I know people that have gotten killed on the streets. Like, it's... Yeah, it's funny. I did not think that this episode was going to take this route because I hadn't thought about this really. No, it's good because it makes it so much more like we're not lying.
No.
Yeah. Like we're not exaggerating stories.
Right.
In my story is an easy one. Like I look at the stories of like my students or other people that I've heard of.
Yeah.
And that's hard. Yeah. So like imagine the things they've gone through to get here.
They are literally running away.
Why they're here.
Yeah.
Right.
Like we came here, after that happened, that was in Mexico City, and then we moved to a different state, Querétaro. And that was a much safer place.
And you guys moved because...
That was the main reason.
Okay.
My dad, after 9/11, he got laid off. Because American company, there's a lot going on at that time. So I might be mixing it up, actually. But we end up in Querétaro. And we only lived there 4 years. And then after Querétaro, we moved here to the U.S. So Querétaro was way safer. I did go to a private school, and I saw the type of security that the rich kids had to have to be safe.
To be able to do anything outside their home.
And obviously not everyone has that luxury of having a bodyguard with you. I had this girl, her family is big oil people in Mexico. I don't even know to what extent, but she's like rich. Like almost Kardashian status type of deal. Like, anyways, so... Yeah, she would show up to school with a bodyguard. Yeah. Bodyguards come pick her up. And so I think, like we were saying, like it's not like I just want to go live in America and leave my family and my traditions and my food and my weather behind. Like,
Nobody wants to leave.
Want to leave our home countries. Like, yeah, America's great, but
we don't come here because it's so cool.
Yeah,
no,
like, I want to live.
We're depressed.
Some people are literally fighting for their lives.
Have you seen those TikToks of the Cubans getting here recently?
Yeah. It's
live
I was there. I was in Dry Tortugas in the park, and 3 days later they shut it down because 300 Cubans had arrived.
Oh,
and I'm kicking myself. I'm like, why wasn't I there when they came? It would have been.
And this might be controversial, but
so beautiful to see. But
for life, I've heard from actual Cubans what life is there like, and I'm like, you know what? Come here if you can.
How do you not want those people to have a better life?
I know.
You see, so I was in Dry Tortugas. It is a national park, west Key West. It's the southernmost point. Basically, it's I think 70 miles, 90 miles, something from Cuba. And people, in Cuba, if anybody catches you making a boat or anything to leave, you will get punished. I don't know if you go to jail or if you get killed. I don't know. In Cuba. So you have to make these makeshift boats inside your house.
Yeah.
And they literally put wooden boards together. They use a car engine to get it to go. And they shove people in there, and they are going through the ocean. If the ocean is rocky, so it's funny, we were talking about that with my dad, and it's you think of the people that cross the border through the desert and how many people have died doing that, and they're well, you can't forget the people that have drowned trying to get to America. Just for a little bit of freedom, just for the slight chance of opportunity, just to leave a place that literally is gonna kill you. Anyway, you see these boats, and there's still things in them. There's shoes and purses and jackets, and it's people are risking their life for the hope of just a little bit better,
just safety, and going to the grocery store and seeing food.
It is so moving.
That's all
to see these things.
The girl I was talking to, she's like, 1 week you'll see rice, but no beans, and the next week you'll see beans, but no rice. So
don't they get rations? They're okay, well, here's a thing of toothpaste, make this last all year long.
Yeah. Or the lines for gasoline is the whole day. You have to be there in line for gas. Because
oh my gosh.
It's horrible.
It's just, that's why we said at the beginning, immigrants come for different reasons and in different ways. And we're all different. It bugs me to put everyone in the same category. But ultimately, we're all looking for something better, right? Because I feel so blessed that my journey here was the easiest possible. Yep. It was fun. It was safe. And it wasn't even supposed to happen the way it did. But to leave your country because you just want to be able to feed your family.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
We don't know what that's like. But I have a lot of empathy, and I understand. I understand what it feels like to want something better for yourself.
Yeah, you can only imagine. That phrase, I can only imagine. Literally, you can only imagine the fear, you know, the unknown of what they're about to come into.
It's crazy.
And luckily, I feel most of us grew up with some access to learning English.
Right.
Some people come with zero knowledge.
That is why every time I'm in the airport and I see a little Guatemalan man, a little Guatemalan woman, and I'm like, do you need help filling out your form? I'm do you know where to go? Because I can help you. It's the least I can do in the airport just because I know my way through an airport, you know?
Yeah. But I feel we have all these opportunities that were given to us. And I feel in a way that's why it's not the main reason we wanted to start the podcast, but it's just hey, just to let everyone know we all come from different backgrounds, but we all want to help out each other.
Yeah. And create a community where you can feel heard and seen.
Exactly. I feel I feel now that more people are appreciative, is that a word?
Yeah.
Of the immigrant labor, right? That's a whole other thing too.
Some people.
But I feel now at least there's more awareness of hey, you have to remember who put that food on your table, you know, whereas before it was just not talked about. Yeah. I feel there is some progress there. Now there's obviously more that we can do, and I think that just comes from Stacy being a help to others, helping our people. They don't even have to be obviously from your own country. It's just you can plainly see that someone needs help with English, and you help them out.
Yeah,
that's what we can do for.
That's how we can give back.
Yeah.
And not that we owe anybody anything or that we don't have to, but out of the goodness of our hearts, just because we have gone through things, and we've luckily, I think I came at a young enough age where I was able to learn the language extremely fast and pretty well, and so I see people that don't have that, and if there's any way I can ever help, then why that'd be dumb of me not to, you know?
Yeah, I will be so frustrated.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, it's just a lot that people go through, and I think my mom was 34, 35 when they moved here, and I'm like, that's 5 or 6 years from how old I am right now. And I'm like, my mom, luckily she knew English, but I'm like, she still took 3 girls to a different country. Luckily, again, we did come to Utah a lot is for vacations. Yeah. There's pictures of me at like 7 Peaks when I was little. Oh. So it wasn't super foreign, but it was still like, adapting to the culture was so different. And we admire a lot of the like American culture or like the American traditions here, and we've adapted some of it into our own lives. And I think one thing that helped was going to American church, American wards, because that just helped us pick up the language more and be assimilate, be like know who our neighbors were, because I feel like that's a struggle too. You don't know who your neighbors are if you don't feel like you're part of the community, because you're just that one Mexican family that lives there.
That's right. And that's a really good point, because that's one challenge that a lot of immigrants face is when we get here, we stay within our communities because
that's all we know,
and that's all you know. And sometimes it can be hard because you never really feel like you fit in. Yeah. Right? It's very different because in Brazil has a lot of immigrants. And even though a lot of them do stay within their communities, that does happen. And we like to stay where we're welcome and where we understand and where we belong. Comfortable. But it's not like here. Here it's more like the Latinos, the Asian. It's like it's very segregated. Whereas I feel like immigrants in Brazil are very like, for us, you're Brazilian. Like you're Brazilian. You speak Portuguese, you are Brazilian. You live here, you have children here, you're Brazilian. And here I think that's one thing that can be sometimes good because you're going to find your community, but also sometimes hard because you never really branch out and actually like see the benefits of I don't know.
Pros and cons. I guess it's up to the person, and obviously again we had the blessing of knowing English so we could communicate with our neighbors. There's some people that don't, so that's a whole other struggle. But I mean there's nothing crazy about my journey here. I want to say mine, I've looked back at it so many times and I'm like, I had it so easy. Like we had a plane ride to get here, and we stayed with my mom's friend for a little bit for the first 6 months, but then we were able to apply for an apartment, and then my parents got a house. Like, we got a house within, 2 or 3 years of moving to the States, which is unheard of at the time, maybe. I don't know. Maybe still. And we've always had food. We've never had our lights or water turned off that I have known. Apparently we have, and my parents were very good at hiding it. And I'm grateful for that, but also I'm like, I don't remember any struggles, like real struggles. Like, it sucked that my mom wasn't at home when we came home from school because she was out working, and that wasn't something that we were used to in Mexico. My mom was always home. She never worked. So,
well, I think the struggle itself, and I'm speaking for myself, obviously I can't speak for everyone, but I think the hardest part of migrating sometimes is the journey itself. But once you get here, it is a country of opportunities. Yeah. If you work hard, there is a way to make a living and be very, very, very comfortable. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are obviously more comfortable here than they ever were back at home. Because here, for example, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is I do brows here and I am okay. You know?
You didn't have to finish college to start brows.
To start a business. And I know that if I were to do brows in Brazil, I would not make the money I make here. So it's very different how things work here. So yes, the journey can be hard, but it is rewarding. There's a lot of good things. And I wanted to ask you guys, like, what are some improvements and benefits you've seen in your life since moving? Because as much as we leave behind, we also gain a lot.
Good question.
Yeah.
I think, the main one for me, I dropped out of college, and that's one of the big reasons why we moved to the U.S. is so we could go to good schools and have more opportunities. But my dad, started a business in real estate, and he's really good at it, and I just dropped out of school and pursued that, and I'm able to make a really good living without a college education, whereas I compare it to my rich friends / conocidos. What are they called?
People you know.
People I know. I was like, there's no way for that. Like, people I know in Mexico, I'm like, they are rich and they have a college education because they have to. Like, they have to have...
Like, you're a nobody.
Yeah.
If you don't have one.
Exactly. Like, you have to have a college education to continue working at your dad's empresa, business. Like, you have to have it in order to be successful and have a life. Here, it's like, you can drop out and make a good life. And create opportunities for yourself. And I'm always so grateful for that. I do believe, though, if we would have stayed in Mexico, I feel like I would have a college education. Our
lives would have been very different.
For sure. But I feel like, we come from a religious background. I don't know if I would be as close to my religion as I am now, even though I feel like I'm not close to it, really, comparing. But I feel because, at least here, there are a lot of people from the same religion. So I grew up never having to, like, no, I don't drink. No, I don't smoke. Right. Whereas all my friends in Mexico were doing that in junior high and high school. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that I wouldn't be successful. I think I would be successful differently. But here, it's been easier. Yeah. Almost to have a good life.
But it is hard.
Yeah.
But it is easier sometimes. It just depends what you consider
hard.
Easy or hard.
Hard is going to be in our life always.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that we are here in a place where, I don't know, I see my life and I'll tell my story of how I got here later, but I think something that that I have now that I definitely wouldn't have had I stayed in my country is, one, the education. So I was able to graduate from BYU, and then I went and got a master's degree, and like never once in my life did I think that would have been me in Guatemala. Like, I remember being in Guatemala I moved here when I was little with my parents, and our legal status was very rocky because, okay, I guess I should just start from the beginning.
Yeah, tell us.
So when I was little, I was 7 years old, and my parents were like, okay, we're moving to the United States. And we're like, okay. I was little. I didn't really think much of it. And I didn't know why until later. We came here. I was 7. My parents, we lived in Kentucky for a couple months, but we were coming from the land of the eternal spring, where there's sunshine and warmth all year round. Seriously. And then we come to like a cold, dark, snowy country. My mom was like, this isn't for me. Like, I can't be here. So we moved to Arizona. In Arizona.
You did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were only in Kentucky for like a couple months. I lived in Arizona. So I lived in Arizona for 4 years, and I did elementary school. And it was awesome. Like, I loved my childhood. And then because of our legal status. So my parents, later I found out there were some situations in my country where like my family was being threatened and my parents didn't feel safe. And so we applied for asylum, came here, and we were actually not granted it. And so they like denied it.
It's crazy.
3 times. So you can appeal. So you apply for asylum, they either grant it or not, and then you can appeal up to 3 times. And we appealed those 3 times. And that whole time we were here, and it took about like 6 years. So we were in Arizona for 4 of those years. And then we moved to Kentucky because my mom was like, I think I could get a job and they can help us get papers. And something that people don't know, and I think this is something that like to this day I don't ever want to take for granted now that I am legally here, is the fear that immigrants live with every single day. Right. Every single day. They are fearful of getting pulled over by the police, getting asked just in conversation like, oh, like, why are you here? How are you here? And the judgment that comes from people. People don't understand the anxiety and the fear that brings upon people. It's crazy. And just like the fear of like, one day I'm going to get kicked out of this country, maybe. I don't know.
And lose everything.
And lose everything like, this is my home. I've been here for 25 years. And now someone's like, oh, sorry, you don't have papers? Like, go home. No, this is home. Yeah. Anyway, so we moved to Kentucky. And then when our last asylum appeal, they denied it. They said, you have a choice. No, they didn't say you have a choice.
And you were here the whole time. You were appealing.
Yes, we were here in the United States the whole time. So we were in Arizona for 4 years and then in Kentucky for a few years. And then the last appeal, they said, you have 120 days to leave the country. And by this point, I'm in 9th grade. I'm a freshman in high school. No.
Wow.
Right. About 4 months.
I was in a freshman in high school. What?
That's 4 months, 120 days.
120 days is 4 months. Okay. So like you have 120 days to leave the country. And I remember the day that we were in the immigration office, getting that phone call, and I remember my world just sank because I was so hopeful. I was like, do I get to stay in the United States? Do I get to stay? And by this point, I'm 14. Like, I have a life. I have friends. I have hobbies. I played sports in junior high and high school. Like, I had my life. And then they're like, no, sorry, you're leaving. So I remember my parents sat us down that night, and they're like, hey, we have two choices. We can go home to Guatemala, or we can stay here illegally.
And stick it out.
And I said, we stay!
Without understanding any of the consequences.
Without understanding any of the consequences. I was just like, I'm not leaving my friends and my life here. Like, I'm not leaving this.
Yeah.
And my parents were like, we're going to pray about it. And then they were like, we're going home. Now, mind you, I love Guatemala, but I left when I was 7 and I didn't go back.
Yeah.
So now I'm 14 and I'm a teenager.
You're like, what the frick
going
is Guatemala?
through teenager things. Going to Guatemala, like,
pretty crazy.
At this point, like, we are, like, as American as it gets.
Yeah.
Because we have been here. We grew up here. And that's when my parents were like, okay, this is what would happen if we stay. You don't have a driver's license. You don't go to college. You live with us. You are limited.
Yeah.
Granted, can people make that life work? Absolutely. Millions have done it.
Sometimes it's worth it.
And 100% it's worth it for some people. But my parents were at a point where they're like, or we could go home. Anyway, we went home. We moved back to Guatemala my freshman year of high school. And it was truly the worst thing.
Really?
So it was, now that I'm older, I've gone through other things that have made that not look so difficult.
The worst thing I've ever been through.
But it was the worst thing up until that point.
Have you seen Confessions of a Drama Queen with Lindsay Lohan?
Absolutely,
Yes.
I love that movie.
Oh, it's just like that, but
Yeah, literally. Everything is the end of the world when you're 14.
Going
Truly.
back to
But I was 14 and I had to move from the United
That would have
States
crushed my world.
to Guatemala. And anyway, we got to Guatemala. Mind you, I'm a no sabo kid at this point. Like, I didn't speak.
Hola.
Like, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, mi gente.
Oh. J-Lo. Te quiero.
dude, oh,
Cringe. Anyway.
hella cringe. J-Lo, girl.
No, but going home at the beginning was awful. I hated it. I was like, I hate this country. I hate the school I go to. I hate the people here.
Yeah.
And I was like angry because I was like, my life just got taken from me for legal reasons, like a piece of paper.
I know.
Yeah.
But then
Stupid piece of paper.
stupid piece of papers. Anyway, but then it's funny. A white girl came and went to my school the next year, and she was like, I love Guatemala. I love it here. I love it. Cassie, if you watch this, I love you in my whole heart.
You're a real one.
And Cassie was my bestie in high school. And I was like, why does this white girl love my country so much? Like, this country sucks. Like, why does she love it so much? And then that's when I was like, hold on, I think I can love my country. And anyway, so then I spent all of high school there, which now that I look back, or even then, I was like, actually, moving home was the best thing to ever happen to me. Because I was
high school there.
Not only did I do high school, but I lived in a similar...
That's one thing you wish you had.
Yeah.
So I was able to, like...
It's really fun.
No, it was the best. Like, it was hard, and it was scary, but it was the best. And I kind of had a similar situation with you. I went to a private school with extremely rich kids. Like, the richest kids in Guatemala. Like, bodyguards. Like, we'd go on field trips, and I'm like, excuse me, why are there 4 Suburbans following us? Whose are they? And it's like, oh, they're his. Oh, no, they're theirs. Like, everybody had their bodyguards.
Yeah.
Like, bulletproof windows.
Yeah.
And that's who I party with. Like, it was crazy.
Nice.
But anyway, going back to Guatemala ended up being the best time, the best experience that could have happened to me, because I was able to reconnect with my roots. And then I was able to see my country for what it really was.
With an older age.
With an older age.
Because you can, like, retain all your memories.
100%. Because when you're 7...
Your story is kind of perfect. It kind of worked out.
Like,
perfectly.
you know that song by Miley Cyrus? She's like, you got the best. Yeah, you know?
Yeah,
I'm not going to
you
sing,
really
but
did.
I did. Like, I had the best of both worlds because I was able to learn the culture, learn the language, but still have high school in Guatemala. Now, I'm saying this in a very positive tone, but there were struggles. I struggled hard, especially at the beginning, and my parents financially was rough. Like, imagine being poor here in the United States. It kind of sucks, right? Yeah. But the more you hustle, the more you can do it. Being poor in Guatemala,
not it.
It doesn't matter how hard you hustle. It doesn't matter.
There's lack of opportunity.
So imagine going back. My parents, like, we took some money because we sold the house or whatever, but, like, it runs out quick. Starting from zero in the United States, hard, doable. Starting from zero in Guatemala, hard, not doable. And so I remember, like, my life was really difficult because financially we were not in a good place. Family things were really hard. But in the long run, it ended up being good. Anyway, I turned 18. Before I turned 18, my brother applied to BYU, got in, and my mom got a job, like, teaching English or something like that, was able to pay for his college, and then he came here. And then that's when I was like, okay, now I have to make a choice. Do I stay in Guatemala and live the rest of my life here? I love it here now. Like, I love my family here. I love my friends here. And then I was like, okay, but what am I going to do? Like, what are the opportunities for me? And I was like, okay, well, I can go to college, and then I can get a job making literally no money.
Yeah.
I am a woman. Like, I don't have the independence that a man does. Like, I can't be driving down the streets on my own at night in Guatemala. And then I said, or I could go to the United States, get a degree, and work there. Granted, at that point, I didn't think I was going to stay here forever because I didn't have the legal status for it. Mm-hmm. And back to your original question, what do I have now that I wouldn't have had if I had stayed? I have the things I have. Like, now I, like, have my degree. I have a master's degree. I have an incredible job that I love, even though it, like, drained the hell out of me. I, like, was able to buy a house. Like, would I ever be able to buy a house in Guatemala? No.
Like, if you look back, all your friends that are your age in Guatemala.
They're here.
But, like, the ones that stay, right? They don't have a house. It's hard.
No, and it's, like, weird to, like, move out. You live with your parents. Like, I would have stayed with my parents. My dad's like, I would have bought you a car. Cool. I bought my own car here. Like, so the things that I have now
does it barely make up the hill? Barely. But we bought it.
We bought it. We bought our cars.
It's possible. It's easier.
It is. So, I guess the things I have now are, I don't want to say everything because of America, but because of, like, just the opportunities that I was able to have here and the education that I received. And granted, fun story, legal reasons. So my parents applied through residency back in 2004 through my uncle. That never, ever, ever, ever worked out. I came here to the United States on a student visa. I graduated, did my OPT, and they're like, sorry, your time's up, go home. So I went back to Guatemala. And I was like, what do I do now? Luckily, I got another student visa, came to grad school. Middle of grad school, my mom calls me. She's like, hey, we have an interview with the
embassy?
The embassy, thank you, for our residency, because those papers that my parents applied through literally 14 years prior finally went through. So the immigration process to get here is, one, extremely long, extremely difficult, and for most people... And for most people, it doesn't work out. Anyway, I went back to Guatemala for that interview, risking the fact that they weren't going to let me in because I was older than 21. So I was 24 at the time, 25. Luckily, they gave it to us. And I remember flying back into the United States with my whole family this time with, like, our green cards in this little packet. Literally, like, after 20 years of just, like, anxiety and fear.
That's a good day.
Oh, coming into the airport. And I remember them, like, stamping whatever, our passports, and the customs dude just hands all our stuff back. He's like, welcome home. I literally shed tears because I was like,
now you're free.
I can be in the United States and breathe and know that I can be here.
Yeah.
Because, and it's funny, like, I don't even think about the struggles or the fear that I used to have talking about immigration, because it, like, went away the second that I got my papers, and it's like, wow, it's crazy. But
I don't know.
Now I'm like, I don't know that life. But it's like, it's good for me to remember how hard it used to be, and how hard it is for some people still.
Yeah.
So that's my story, and I took took forever, but it's just like there's so many perks really to it.
Story. But yeah, because I think keeping in mind that like when you lose so much when you move here, you really like it is the land of freedom, but you're only free if you're American. If you are an immigrant, you're not really free. You're just here because some things make a little bit more sense.
Right.
However, you can't do most things. And the fact that a lot of immigrants can't even go home to
That's what I was going to say. There are people that live here and they are hustling and they know this. I'm going to cry just thinking about this.
I know.
And they know in their heads, they know that they will never go home. They will never go see the country that raised them. They will never see some people
family home. Yes.
And people die. People are born and they never get to like.
Right, and so my point with that is if you think about everything that immigrants lose when they move here, you better know that they had a really good reason to be here and to leave everything behind. It's not just because they come here to take your jobs, to take everything away from you.
To take cute Instagram pictures. We're not here for that.
Because we have nothing better to do. It's just because we're takeawayers. Like, no. Like, we lose so much that I promise you it's because they come and we come for a very valid reason.
They are willing to sacrifice. Yeah. They are willing to leave behind so many things just for that hope. And it's crazy to me. It is crazy to me.
It really is.
That people come here and they aren't welcome by people who did the same exact thing
when they needed
generations
to.
ago.
Yeah, when
the
they
people,
needed to.
Their families, their like ancestors came from Europe seeking what? Religious freedom, financial freedom, anything. They came and stole lands, and then they have the audacity. I get riled up thinking about this. They have the audacity to not welcome the people that are trying to do the same thing. Like,
mind you, the things that are being taken away from you are the things that you don't want in the first place. It's like, you're always going to have everything you want if you're American.
But I do want to say something. There are some people here that love the immigrants so much. Right. And that will give to the immigrants. Because I had that. Like, when I was an immigrant, when I didn't speak the language, when I didn't know the culture, when I was lost, there were some American white people that were like, let me help you. Let me be your friend. Let me be there with you. And to those people,
Thank you.
I love you. I love you. And keep doing, like, look out for the little people. Look out for them. And that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to be with those little people, the little immigrants in West Valley, and those little babies.
And that's a really good point because there are immigrants that get here. Not everyone is good.
No.
Yes, there are rapers and like rapers.
We're still learning that language.
As that man
and drug dealers. But are there not rapists and drug dealers already here that were born?
Right, some of them are not good. And but here's the thing that I think. It's like, I also dislike a lot immigrants that keep it to themselves, their little secrets, and like they don't want to help. It's like they conquer, they succeeded, but they're so racist to other immigrants, even though you are one too. It's like, that's the thing for me.
That's fake.
It really gets to me. I'm like, you got here because somebody, like, no one gets here without help.
No one gets here completely on their own. That's correct.
You receive help, so you better give it back.
I remember, was it 2016? That's when Trump got elected, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. I remember this meme going around because Florida was blue for a long time with like the votes and everything, and last minute it went red. And the meme going around was that picture of from Drake and Josh. That it's a picture of Josh, and you know when he says Megan, it was like Cubans.
Right. It's like, what are we doing,
bro? Latinos for Trump, like.
Okay.
F you guys.
Literally, my ears bleed when I hear that. We're getting political, and
I know. I don't mean to get political. No,
I do mean it.
I do. Like, I want to speak my piece.
I will say though,
I hate you guys.
So I was talking to this Cuban girl when I went to Miami in December, and she was just telling me about the struggles, and she's like, yeah, so it's no wonder that Cubans become Republican when they come here, because they see the things that they lacked in their country. Now, I don't know what Cuba is politically. It's communist. Yes. But I'm not sure how it relates to like our parties here. You know what I mean? But a lot of them are like, we see. Now, I'm not saying that Republicans are right way. No, but it's just like a lot of them see the suffering, the suffering that they went through here, and they come here and they just relate more to the Republic. Again, I'm not speaking for all Cubans. This is just from her telling me this. So it was just interesting because I always wonder. I'm like, how our own people can see their friends, families, neighbors come to this country and be like, ew, go away, fuchi. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you have that feeling in your heart when you went through the freaking same thing?
Right.
And, I mean, that's a whole other... I don't think we might
we
never
ever talk
understand.
about it, yeah.
And we don't need to talk about it, but I think a lot of people need to realize that, like, I don't know, like, there's those that do remember where they come from. And we have so many opportunities here, but we remember where we come from. And I think that's what keeps us real, keeps us humble, keeps us more willing to help others and not feel like we're better than someone else because we have a different paper status. It's literally all it is.
Yeah. Literally. It doesn't define your worth. No. And I think, like, as we finish this episode, like a word of encouragement. It's like, just know you're not alone. Mm-hmm. There is a community. We're here, the three of us, if you have no one to talk to. Like, you're not alone. And everything will work out. Everything will. And if it doesn't, and this is my personal belief, it's for the better. Just like for you, like at a point in your life, you thought the world was ending. And it worked out. And it always does. Mm-hmm. Right?
And I don't think it could have worked out any better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I do want to say... that, and like how you were saying, like, it doesn't matter how long I live here. Because I have now, at this point, lived more of my life in the United States, that I will never not be Guatemalan, I'll never not be Latina. But this is home, too. Yeah. And this is not just home for me. This is not just home for white people. This is not just home for Native Americans. This is a home for everybody. Like, the United States has been a home to so many people, and it has been a good home. And I understand that there are a lot of shitty things that happen in this country, and there are a lot of things I'm not okay with. But at the end of the day, like, my life is good, and I've been given so much. I've been so blessed by the people in this country, by the circumstances in this country, and I can't take that away from them. Right. So I do love America. I won't be repping the flag anytime soon in my car, you know. Yeah. But... I am very grateful for this country and the people, and I'm grateful for the friends that I have and the woke white people, bro. Those are my favorite. Like,
I love.
I like when they try speaking Spanish to you,
bro.
Yes,
like so I love it, like because they understand, they're empathetic, and they like are rooting for the underdog. And people that root for the underdog, those are my people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are my people. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I don't know if we want to say anything else. I know that this
very grateful. To be here.
So grateful to be here. And so grateful to be doing this with you guys.
Yeah, seriously.
My little immigrant besties. Because I think hopefully there's someone out there that needs to hear this. That you're here for a reason. And we're all in this together. You're not alone. Feel free to DM us if you have any concerns. And if you want to cancel us, go ahead, DM us.
Yeah, seriously. No, I mean, let's chat. One last thing, like... If you're trying to perfect your English, I feel like that will be a never-ending journey. You will get better. But I've been here almost 20 years. And
I'm still learning English things.
With 5 years of knowledge maybe before coming to the U.S., and I'm still struggling at times. When I get nervous, my accent comes out sometimes.
Well, a little accent is sexy.
Right. But,
in my opinion.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I guess just remember who you are.
Don't forget who you are, because that's your essence, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Love it, embrace it, and, it's hard, but I guess we can all just pray and hope for a better future for everyone, but especially immigrants. It's heartbreaking to see some of the scenes that we see on TV recently at the border, or just immigrants just coming here for a better life, and, I don't know, that's all we can do. Just help out each other and just very grateful. And we're the backbone of America, and together we're going to power through. One day, this isn't going to be a white America. It's going to be a multicultural America, and it already is. And I love to see it. Yeah. Well, anyways.
Well, thank you for listening. We are so grateful you guys are here, and we will see you next Thursday.
Yeah. Okay. Next week.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.